Hi friends and family. Tonight's Thursday Night Thought is about You and I Inc. and the story behind its creation. There is more to this world than what we can see with our eyes. It's an energy presence. And if someone isn't aware of this energy presence, it can control their decisions and therefore their actions. I know because this happened to me. I was once blind to this energy, but now I see. When my eyes were opened to this energy source, I saw how fate no longer controlled my life. Rather, I create my life based on my ability how to change this energy. I wrote You and I Inc., an allegorical novel based on my story, providing the tools that I was given to change this energy. I believe that changing this energy is not a one-person job, but rather a global business I like to call You and I Incorporated. Tonight, I want to share my testimony, and I brought the pages to read from rather than posting it in a blog or having you read what I've written, and so here it goes. Ever since I was a young girl, I was aware of another energy presence. I would spend hours playing and talking with my imaginary friends. When I told my parents about these friends, they smiled and half listened. However, I knew they didn't believe me. They were too wrapped up in their own world. They would spend countless nights screaming at each other. I knew they were angry, and I tried to stay away, and my imaginary friends became my refuge. My parents then divorced, and my sister and I went to live with my mom and visited my dad every other weekend. I was only 5 years old at the time. However, I knew intuitively that my mom was in a very unsteady place emotionally. Also, my younger sister took up most of her time being a child with special needs of asthma and eczema. So between my mom's emotional battle and my sister's needs, I once again found myself spending hours playing with my imaginary friends. Eventually, my mom's emotional stability became worse. My mom was like an emotional roller coaster. I never knew what to expect. One minute, she would be laughing and singing, and not more than 5 minutes later, she would be angry and yelling and blow up without warning to scream at my sister and I, and then she would lock herself away for hours. I tried to please her the best I could. However, I knew I was more of a nuisance in her life and just one more thing she had to handle. Every other weekend, I was with my dad, where things were calm and orderly. I knew what to expect, unlike the solitude I experienced at my mom's house. At the age of 9, I knew that living with my mom was not the right choice for me, and so I asked to live with my dad. This became a 2-year court battle and a bloody fight for custody. Soon, counselors, mediators, lawyers, psychologists, and many others became a part of the fight. Every week, I would attend counseling sessions, be tested by numerous psychologists. During this time, I would placate to both sides, again, wanting to people please. I would tell these psychologists about my imaginary friends, and the psychologists told me that I was a traumatized little girl. They would probe deeper until I was being led to say things about my mom and dad that made them look as if they were, or my mom has made her look as if she was an abusive mother. I felt like a pawn in a big legal game. Everyone thought I was traumatized and abused, and that I was seeing things and making things up for fear that I didn't have to relive in my own reality of my parents' divorce. After hearing this for years, I bought into the premise and allowed the attention and love of my dad and stepmom to heal the wounds and bring me back to reality. Yet my reality was no different than living with my mother. I was a people pleaser, and that wasn't about to change. The only outlet I had found for myself was church and through reading the Bible. I was baptized at the age of 11 and planted roots within my church, making many friends, and found it an easy place to be accepted. My favorite thing to study was spiritual warfare and the power of the mind. I knew that I was a vessel of some sort to spread love to a darkened world. I lived my life by messages that were given to me, like, go give that woman a hug, or call your friend right now. Immediately after following this voice of guidance, I would sense a peace throughout my body, a vibration, or what I call a sixth sense. I was extremely fulfilled living my life for others and following this voice. And I thought at the time it was God. It wasn't until I lost my virginity to my first husband that I began to feel unworthy of God's love. I struggled with guilt and condemnation of myself for years. I went through several depressions, countless counselors, trying to make sense of why I couldn't forgive myself. I believed this one action took away my special relationship with God. For I no longer heard the voices, and I no longer felt the peaceful vibrations in my body. I felt as if I was a ship in the middle of the ocean with no direction and a feeling of dread. My marriage mirrored the same. Fast forward years later to when I was 26, when I began to learn about the law of attraction and the power of our thoughts. I began to play with these concepts and found it to be my own private playground, where I didn't have to please anyone but myself. By age 27, my confidence was soaring. My mother and I had forgiven one another for years of pain, and I realized at that time that I needed to get a divorce in order to better be in touch with who I am. Soon after, I had manifested everything I could ever want. I had an amazing job, friends, a car, an apartment I could call my own. I was glowing, and my spiritual life was back on track. I felt I had entered the young and carefree girl I was back in high school when I was able to love others and love myself. It was at this time I began a relationship with a man of my dreams, and soon we were on the path to get married. Never did I imagine to lose myself once again and try and people please with my second husband. I lost my voice, fell back into a depression, and again went into years of counseling. I became fed up and in a desperate cry for help, attempted to take my own life. It wasn't until I almost went blind and I had to spend 3 months of recovery face down in a bed for 22 hours a day that I began to truly see. I reread my journals and I started to notice patterns in my behavior and thoughts. I made a vow to myself that my life situations may get me tangled up again in fear, but this was going to be the last time I would ever believe I was trapped or strangled by them. I began to hold my ground with my husband and conquer my need to please him in order to keep the relationship. As I did, our entire life began to change. Soon, I was back to me. I began playing with thought manifestation again, and our life began to soar. Within 2 years, we had accomplished everything on our vision board, and all of our dreams were becoming a reality. We had it all. I didn't share my secret with anyone for fear that it might go away. Yet even though I had everything, I ever wanted a loving husband, a family, a big house, nice cars, lavish vacations, I had one debilitating thought that I couldn't get rid of. No matter what, I could not give my husband my trust. I lived with this debilitating thought that he would cheat on me. And I was fiercely jealous of other women, as they all posed a threat to my marriage. Yet deep inside, I knew this didn't align with who I am. Also, with my knowledge of the law of attraction, I knew it was only a matter of time before this fear would create a reality. Enter my years of working with Elisa. In the sacred walls of her studio, I was able to let go and unchain myself from the burden of that debilitating thought. I realized the reason I didn't trust my husband is because I didn't trust myself. Soon, I was on the road to understanding what truly trusting myself meant. And well, it took a book to explain that part of my life. The Cliff Notes. I found that there's an energy that surrounds us, and this energy has been here since the time of conscious humanity. This energy is in a form of spirits, thought energy, call it ghost, call it supernatural, paranormal. It doesn't matter what we call it, but it had attached itself to me and completely changed the way I made decisions and therefore the actions of my life. Once I realized that my true self was not this energy, I found the answers to who I am through the core of my work with Elisa, and the attachment, or the spirit, or the thought attachment, whatever you want to call it, was released and changed into an orb of light. I wrote a story about my realization of how every decision I ever made was based on this energy and this thought attachment. I believe people are walking around today unaware of these spirit attachments. And if they could see these spirits that are not here to hurt us, but they are here to learn from us in order to go on into the light, we would have a greater understanding of how we create our own reality. Also, through writing this book, I know who I am. I am AJ Beaber, and I see orbs of light. I believe this is a transmutation of energy. I desire to give others the tools of how to change this energy so that they too can create the life they've always dreamed of. That's my testimony. I really appreciate you allowing me to share it here today. It's nerve-wracking. It makes me shake. But it's time for me to share this story, and it's time for me to share the knowledge that I know and have lived for the last 39 years. And I look forward to sharing more in the future. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing our next Thursday night thought together. Thank you.